2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. Everyone is listening to you now. You came by the tens of millions to become part of a historic movement, the likes of which the world has never seen before. The likes of which the world has never seen before.
Fairly dramatic.
I haven't seen this before at Inauguration.
I haven't.
And it looks organized and it looks deliberately violent. I haven't seen this before at Inauguration.
I haven't.
And it looks organized and it looks deliberately violent.
Absolutely. It looks like they know exactly what they're doing.
Look at that. People smashing windows of a McDonald's downtown. This is very unusual.
And of course, Kat, if we can hear this.
The likes of which the world has never seen before.
This is very unusual.
And of course, Kat, if we can hear this. There are sort of protesters that are about a block or so away from us. We can hear some of the yelling that's going on. It's unprecedented. This is exactly what none of us wanted to see here today. People taking this violent approach as the new president of the United States is about to come up Pennsylvania.
pushed me down. Police pushed me down on the sidewalk as I was running away from them. Again, I am media. And again, I am not a protester.
Letting your 8-year-old set fires is demented, and it says a lot.
It's got a whiff of ISIS to it.
Yeah, it does.
Holy cow. Before, now we finally were able to get back on the sidewalk, and they're throwing bricks at the police. Again, the situation here is extremely insane. You could feel the tension in the air.
who opposes Islam as being a bigot or a racist, all right? Which is stupid because Islam is not a race, okay? No such thing. It's a religion. Actually, it's a conquest ideology. That's what it is, all right? So, to me, as far as I'm concerned, this is about our freedom, all right? And the fact that I was thrown out of the Donald Trump rally for expressing my First Amendment right, that bothers me, but it doesn't, I don't blame Trump for it. It was his handler, man. They're scared of me. They're scared of me. See a guy like me.
You guys need Jesus Christ out here today. You need to repent of your sin. What are you hiding? What's with all the facial man, guys?
Say it loud, say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Say it loud, say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here. Say it louder, louder.
Horrific moment of darkness to wake us the up. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. There is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything, yes, I'm angry. Yes, I am outraged. Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House. But I know that this won't change anything. We cannot fall into despair. As the poet W.H. Auden once wrote on the eve of World War II, we must love one another or die.
For those liberal Hollywood leftists in need of a lobotomy, like Rosie O'Donnell, they are straight up communists. Rosie supports imposing martial law, delaying the inauguration until Trump is cleared of all charges. Rosie, I know you. I don't have a problem with you. But martial law? Are you nuts? Do you even know what martial law is? It's when the military takes over when we're invaded and we're at war. And by the way, Trump isn't charged with anything. And for him to be cleared, there'd have to be a trial. Ain't no trials happening, Rosie, during martial law. And on a personal level, Rosie, you would hate it. There would be curfews and checkpoints. There'd be tanks in the streets. And no, you couldn't call an Uber tank for a quick latte at your local Starbucks. Your tweet is stupid. Since when does the left want the military to take over? And a little primer, Rosie. When they do, people like you, who call for the overthrow of the president, meet a firing squad. And it ain't a happy ending.
Grabbed my cameraman, tried to attack the camera, and now randomly we have this group of people who have just showed up. Not sure they have anything to do with the real crowd that was here earlier. They seem more like anarchists, but they're blocking the street. You see the bus in the background, right in front of City Hall here off of Spring Street. But we know LAPD is on their way. We do see LAPD watching also nearby. This was earlier.
Education is a right, not just for the rich and white.
This is the scariest moment of my life.
Thousands marched at the United Against Hate rally, a protest of President Trump's inauguration in downtown Los Angeles.
I'm here, my sign says that my grandfather, he liberated concentration camps and said never again. And my mother fought for human rights until the day she died from the age of 11 in the 1960s. So I've been raised to believe that love and equality is the right thing, and that we have to continue to fight, and I will continue to fight her fight until the day I die.
Each person compelled to be here in the windy, cold, rainy temperatures for different reasons. Angela is a disabled veteran.
There's never been a greater threat, I think, to our Constitution, and when I swore that oath to protect and defend the Constitution from all enemies, both domestic and foreign, when the press starts getting threatened and he starts doing things that are dictator-like, I think we all need to get on the right side of history and start wrapping our arms around the Constitution and protecting it and putting ourselves on the right side and unite between us and Trump.
I just don't know how we even got into this situation where people actually voted for somebody like this, because obviously he doesn't have the people's interest in mind at all, especially women's. He doesn't have any respect for women.
10 million people voted for other candidates besides Donald Trump. He does not have a mandate in spite of his bluster and BS.
These voters insist we can't turn a blind eye to his questionable past behaviors, and many want him to delete his account, referencing his Twitter feed. And after a long rainy march from LA Live to the steps of LA City Hall, all here vowed to continue to speak up, especially those who feel healthcare is a human right.
30 million people are on Obamacare. Repealing it without having a replacement is just total nonsense.
I have a heart condition that I wouldn't have been able to get health care, 4 years ago, 8 years ago, and who knows what's going to happen now.
Back here live, you see LAPD there on the City Hall steps, and we still have that crowd of people out here shouting, and we do hear the LAPD helicopter overhead, so they're going to make sure everything is safe. They are letting some traffic go through. We'll keep you posted if any.
The inauguration, the protests, many turning violent. I actually captured this video that you're going to see on my phone. Our news crew witnessed some of the looting, the broken windows, the destruction of property. Businesses were locking their doors. We tried to go outside and capture this, but we were ordered to stay inside. These particular protesters. And Matt Gutman joins us from D.C. right now. And Matt, you were covering the protesters all day, and we're hearing that more protests and marches are planned today.
Hey, good morning, Paula. That's right. And the biggest protest of all is set to start right here. You can see them setting the sound stage behind me. Already hundreds of people out here for the Women's March on Washington. Hundreds of thousands of others expected. But with its A-list celebrities and peaceful message, it'll be a far different sight than those running street battles we saw over the past 12 hours. Overnight in Washington, D.C., protesters crashing one of the night's glamorous inaugural balls, pushing their way into the Freedom Ball, linking arms to try to prevent guests from coming in. Once pushed back, the protesters began tossing water on partygoers. Earlier, blocks from the pageantry of the inaugural parade, rioters smashing this limo, then setting it on fire. The smoke clogging the street, rioters then vandalizing this Starbucks and a McDonald's. Riot police moving in, a wall of them pushing protesters back, blasting them with pepper spray and stun grenades. Peaceful demonstrators scrambling for cover as bursts of rapid-fire rubber bullets rang out. Nearby, while being interviewed by another network,
are you like the hipster version of the neo-Nazi movement?
White nationalist Richard Spencer sucker-punched by a passing protester. More than 200 arrested in the nation's capital. At the University of Washington, a shooting at a protest left one hospitalized with possible life-threatening injuries. But as in Washington, the majority of the protests in California, New York, Chicago, Missouri, and other places were peaceful.
He's our president! He's our president!
Meanwhile, Trump supporters standing by the president.
You know, when you're angry and you're yelling and you're screaming and you're destroying things, it takes away from your message.
Later this morning, that massive women's march taking to the streets of Washington, D.C., with sister marches extending across the country. Over 600 of these marches in all, more than 2 million people expected to turn out. A plane full of women arriving in Baltimore, cheering after the flight attendant said this.
A round of applause for all the nasty women on board.
Local authorities say they expect up to 400,000 protesters, but organizers overnight told me they expect even more than that. But what they hope happens today is that this launches a national movement warning against the loss of women's rights in a Trump administration. Paula, Dan.
Matt Gutman, thank you. President Trump's message in his inaugural address was loud and clear. America first. Time magazine devoting much of its latest issue to the new president with this image on the cover. And joining us now to talk about all of this, Cokie Roberts and Kristen Soltis Anderson. Cokie, let me start with you. Let's talk about this Women's March on Washington this morning. Do you imagine the message of the marchers is likely to have a real impact on President Trump?
Well, it's not entirely clear what the message is, and I think that's the problem.
States can say he's going to grab someone's pussy. You know, you see just how close to the surface that kind of culture is.
Well, it's not entirely clear what the message is, and I think that's a problem.
We drop back! We drop back! We drop back! We drop back!
Well, it's not entirely clear what the message is.
I am happy to stitch a pink pussy hat if it will get women and men talking about sexual assault, violence by partners, violence by people in power, and get the message out there that it's not okay.
From coast to coast, women are crafting a movement, knitting for what's being called the Pussy Hat Project, something many protesters will be wearing when thousands come to this weekend's Women's March on Washington. A project referencing President-elect Donald Trump's controversial comments about grabbing women, heard in a 2005 video clip. But founders say they are grabbing the word back.
We're using the charging word to get people's attention.
Carrie McKnight's Virginia home has turned into a collection center with more than 10,000 hats to be given away at the march.
course, to abandon the divisive, racist, misogynist, ignorant plans it's trumpeting and lead us with intelligence and compassion.
They're fairly dramatic.
I haven't seen this before at Inauguration.
I haven't.
And it looks organized.
But the hometown folk do not behave like Donald Trump. Look tonight at thousands upon thousands of us, of different religions, different races, different sexual orientations, different genders, that stand together saying that we may have seen you win an election, but we have not lost our minds.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Absolutely. It looks like they know exactly what they're doing.
Look at that. People smashing windows of a McDonald's downtown. This is very unusual.
And of course, Patty, we can hear this.
The likes of which the world has never seen before.